They're already yelling. What's that? Did I mess up already?
No, you allow standing room when you do this.
Well, yeah, it's been like this. Hasn't really been like this all day. So there's a few more people in here. I think they want to hear what you have to say. So first of all, welcome to TechCrunch Disrupt, and thanks for coming.
Thanks for having me. It's good to get a chance to be here.
This venue probably looks familiar just because it's where you do F8, and it's how we originally found out about it, and it's such a great venue. So you probably feel fairly comfortable in this venue.
Yeah, although you get a lot more people in here than we do.
Oh, okay. Okay, so you ready? I have a few questions for you about the IPO to start. You went public on it's May 18th, and the stock has lost roughly half its value since then.
Just get right into it.
Is it awkward? No, okay. If you could have done anything differently with hindsight, would you have?
Well, you know, I mean, the performance of the stock has obviously been disappointing, right? And we care about our shareholders, and the commitment that we made is that we're going to execute this mission of making the world more open and connected, and we're going to do the things that we think are going to build value over the long term. And you know, over the next 3 to 5 years, I think the biggest question that is on everyone's minds that will determine at least our performance over that period is really going to be how well we do with mobile. And you know, we've been in this quiet period for the last 6 months or so. You know, since right up to the time when we were getting started with the IPO, and a lot of stuff has changed since then. I mean, 6 months ago on mobile, you know, we hadn't launched our new set of apps, right? So we were still in a pretty bad place there. Apple hadn't announced the iOS integration. Literally 6 months ago, we didn't run a single ad on mobile. So, you know, I think it's easy for a lot of folks, without us being out there talking about the stuff that we're doing, to really underestimate how fundamentally good mobile is for us. And that's one of the main things that you know, this is the first time that I've really spoken since the IPO publicly, and it's one of the main things that I think is misunderstood right now, is how fundamentally good it is on a bunch of different levels. So I mean, the first is there are more users, right? Obviously. The second is that per person who's using Facebook on mobile, there's more engagement and they're spending more time. And then the third is that per amount of time that people spend on mobile, we think that we're going to make a lot more money than we do on desktop too. So you know, you can kind of go through all three of these things. I mean, number of users, it's fairly obvious. There are a lot more people who have phones than who have computers. 5 billion people in the world who have phones. The number of smartphones growing really quickly. The number of Facebook mobile users growing really quickly. On engagement, we already see that mobile users are more likely to be daily active users of Facebook than desktop users. They're more than twice as likely to use Facebook 6 out of 7 days of the week. So there's a lot that we can do there. And those stats are from before we even launched the most recent version of the iOS app, which has been a massive improvement. I mean, since we launched that, the number of stories that people have consumed have doubled on that.
So just slow down.
Feel free to cut me off.
I want to unpack like everything you just said, but it's going to take me a while. And I don't want to cut you off.
We have 21 minutes.
But you've just said so much, and there's so much to unpack in there. But let's just jump back up I want to get rid of the IPO questions first, and then it's interesting how much you talk about mobile, though, and then we're going to talk a lot more about that.
Go for it.
But you know, when you went public, you said, we don't build services to make money. We make money to build great services.
Yeah.
So my response is, wow, you really meant that. And let's talk a little bit about that.
You said I did mean that.
It seems like you really meant it.
Yeah, we really mean that. You know, the statement we don't build services to make money. We make money to build better services really goes to the heart of the philosophy that we have in running the company. And you know, there's no doubt we are a mission-driven company. I mean, we exist and we wake up in the morning, and the thing that gets us excited is making the world more open and connected, and the things that we're doing to build that. But you know, you can't just focus on that, right? I mean, since the beginning of building Facebook, one of the core things that I've learned is that in order to do this, we have to build a great team. And in order to build a great team, the best people want to work on a mission that they believe in, but they also want to make a bunch of money, right? And in order to do that, you have to build a great business. We want to build a platform, right? In order to build a platform, we need to build tools that are going to make it so that developers can build the things that they want and make a bunch of money. And in order to do that, we need to have a business model that works for them and incentivizes them to want to work with us. Advertisers produce a lot of the content, right? I mean, a lot of what people do on Facebook is around pages. That content is in the system because advertisers get a good ROI working with Facebook. So building a mission and building a business go hand in hand. And it is definitely true that the primary thing that makes me excited about what we're doing is the mission. But I also think that from the very beginning, we've had this healthy understanding, which is that we need to do both. And we're about doing both. And that's a key part of understanding the philosophy that we have.
Okay. With the stock price fluctuations, are you finding it like you have to be creative in incentivizing employees to stay, keeping morale up? Is there a morale problem? How are you dealing with that in general?
Well, it doesn't help. But look, I mean, I think that there are a few things that are important to keep in mind here. First is that Facebook has not been an uncontroversial company in the past, right? So it's not like this is the first up and down that we've ever had. And I think that people at Facebook are fairly used to, at this point, the press and folks saying good things about us and saying bad things about us. And we have a pretty good compass at understanding, here's what we need to build. We're going to stay focused on that. I always make a point when I think that people are being too nice to us or writing too nice of stuff about us to get up in front of the company and say, hey, we're not as good as they say we are now. And then when I think that people are being too critical and underestimating us, saying, I think we're not as bad as they say we are either. And I think it's really important to kind of keep that in mind, and I think people understand that. The second thing is just that what really motivates people at Facebook is building stuff that they're proud of. And I don't think that this is just Facebook. This is universal, right? I mean, it's really hard for people to wrap their heads around, okay, I'm building something that 950 million people are going to use. But what I think resonates with a lot of people is, I'm building something that I'm going to show to my friends and my family, and then I'm going to be proud to do that. And one of the things that we've found is when we release apps, right, the new version of Messenger, the new version of the iOS app, the iOS integration that's coming out, the camera app, all these types of things, that's not only the stuff that drives morale inside the company, but it also drives a lot of recruiting. Because a lot of people come to us and say, I want to work at this place because you guys built that, and you guys are doing some of the most interesting stuff out there. So that's the second thing. And then the third thing is, we haven't really done anything on equity or anything like that in order to incentivize people. I think that basically sticking to the normal path that we have there is good. But it's important for people to understand, both new people who are coming to the company and people who are at the company, that the way that we do compensation is, we translate the amount of cash that we want to give you into shares. So if the shares are undervalued or valued less than you think that they're going to be in the future, then you're going to get more shares for the amount of money that we're willing to compensate you. So, I think the real question, sure, some people are going to look at this and maybe, some people will leave, but I actually think it's a great time for people to join, and it's a great time for people to stay and double down. And I think we're seeing that.
Can we talk product now? They liked that answer. So I want to talk about product. And I've been rough on the company, as others have, over mobile in the past. I've said it was the Achilles heel. I've said it was some of your mobile products are the worst products I've ever seen in my life. I've said,
and we are very self-critical too.
Is mobile a strength and an opportunity for Facebook, or is it your weakness?
Well, it really gets back to what I was saying before. So mobile is, there are going to be more users. Each user is going to spend more time, and per amount of time that they spend, we're going to be making more money than we are on desktop. And it's pretty easy to paint the picture for all of those. So more users, pretty clear. There are a lot more people who have phones in the world. More engagement. I think that could have gone either way, but we're already seeing the stats that mobile users more engaged on a daily basis. Since we did the new version of the iOS app, which makes what we're doing competent, we've already seen double the amount of feed stories that people consumed per user on a daily basis. So we've shown that, in addition to already being ahead on mobile engagement compared to desktop, there are huge things that we can do that can move the needle on that. And then on monetization, I'm really optimistic because mobile is a lot closer to TV than desktop, where on desktop we basically, for the past 5 or 6 years, we've had these right-hand column ads, right? So we've had this ads team that's worked largely in isolation to build this service that any product team at Facebook can use. You're building a product, you can put these ads on the side of your product, and it's been great. We've built a multi-billion-dollar business by doing that. But on mobile, that's clearly not going to be the answer, right? We're not going to have ads on a separate column. There's just no room. So the ads have to be more integrated. And what we're seeing now is, each of the product teams at Facebook are taking ownership over that. We're seeing some great mobile monetization products get developed. They have to be fundamentally integrated into the product. And what we're seeing already, even with the early mobile ads that we have, is they perform better than the right-hand column ads on desktop. So I think we know that we're going to do well on that. There's a huge opportunity. Now the question is getting there. And there's no doubt that some of the stuff that we've had a bunch of missteps on this. I think part of the first question that you asked me that I didn't quite get to answering was, what are some of the big mistakes that we've made? And when I'm introspective about the last few years, I think that the biggest mistake that we made as a company is betting too much on HTML5 as opposed to native, because it just wasn't there, right? And it's not that HTML5 is bad. I'm long-term really excited about it. And and one of the things that's interesting is we actually have more people on a daily basis using mobile web Facebook than we have using our iOS or Android apps combined, right? So mobile web is a big thing for us. But there's no doubt that we went for this approach. We built this internal framework that we called FaceWeb, which was basically this idea that we can take the infrastructure that we built out for pushing code every day, not having to submit to an app store, building web code on the web stack that we have, and then we can translate that into mobile development. We just were never able to get the quality that we wanted. And so we made this decision 2 years ago to go in that direction. So it took us 6 to 8 months to build FaceWeb and get that approach going. Another 4 months or so to decide that it wasn't going to do it after we'd kind of committed to doing that. And then we had to start over and start rewriting everything to be native. So that's it brings us to where we are now. We burnt 2 years. That's really painful. I think probably we will look back on saying that is one of the biggest mistakes, if not the biggest strategic mistake that we've made. But we're coming out of that now, right? And the iOS app, I think, is in good shape, and the Android one will hopefully be soon.
Okay, I want to unpack that a little bit. You said that it was about 2 years ago, it was about 20 months ago that you actually decided native is the way to go. Is that right, or was it less time?
No, so 2 years ago is when we decided to basically bet completely on HTML5.
Okay.
And that's when we started building FaceWeb, and we got into that framework. And in the beginning, we launched a version. We're like, all right, well, we know that this isn't as good as we want, but we believe that because it's using the same desktop, the same web methodology that we're used to and really good at it as a company, that we're going to be able to improve on that really quickly. And we worked at that for a few months and then came to the conclusion that, hey, this isn't going to get it better to the quality level that we want anytime soon. The level of mobile experiences that are out there are just so good that we need to, good enough is not good enough, right? We need to have something that's at the highest quality level, and the only way we're going to get there is by doing native. So we decided, all right, scrap this. Not completely. I mean, we're still kind of iterating on the side, but we're minimizing it. And native is going to be the approach that we go with for iOS and Android going forward.
And so you said that's probably the biggest strategic mistake you've made is sticking to HTML too long?
Yeah. Or just betting completely on it. Right? I mean, like I said, we have more usage on our mobile website than we have on our iOS apps and Android apps put together. And that's not like I mean, our iOS and Android apps are the biggest iOS and Android apps out there, right? So, I mean, so mobile web is huge, right? And that is, but we just couldn't bet completely on it, right? I mean, on iOS and Android, you could just do so much better by doing native work, and we needed to just do that.
So my reaction to the iOS app, I was skeptical at first, and then I tried it out and I wrote about it. It was amazing. Did you feel the same way? I mean, was there a point before you launched the native app where you were, like, oh my God, this sucks on the iPhone? Or?
Yeah. I mean, I don't think we're very self-critical. It was not where we wanted it to be before. But and to be honest, even what we have now is not as good as it can be. I mean, we basically have we spent the last period of time, we made this decision that we wanted to get this rewrite done as quickly as possible. So we knew that we wanted to add a bunch of features, and there's a bunch of design things that we want to do that aren't reflected in the current version. But just to kind of execute on it well and simplify the project from an engineering perspective, we decided to scope it. Hey, let's ship exactly the same features that we had before, but just now fast. And one of the things that I'm really excited about is that in parallel, other teams have been building other features and apps that we just didn't launch with the last release because we wanted the first release to just be this clean thing, exactly the same feature set, just really fast now. And over the coming weeks and months, I think we can expect to see a lot of the cool stuff that people have been working on over the past half year come out in these apps as well. So that's going to be awesome. I'm really excited about that.
Will you be rewarding Android users with a better app soon as well?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of the same infrastructure that we've built for iOS in terms of the way that we do data fetching, I mean, that we had to kind of invent from scratch. It wasn't just pushing down a website like we did with FaceWeb. And all of that stuff is going to apply to Android, and we're working on that, and we hope to have that ready soon.
And soon, can you talk about specifically, or you're not? No?
I mean, it'll be ready when it's ready.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. And not before. Yeah.
And hopefully not before.
I want to spend a minute. So you've retooled the entire way you build products internally. You had a separate mobile group. You had separate monetization groups. What's happened? How has that changed, and when?
Well, one of the big things that we did was, so we used to be purely functionally organized, right? So the management team, we used to have one head of engineering, one head of product. And then we made this change around the end of last year where we set up these product groups, right? So, now there's a newsfeed and information distribution product group. There's an identity product group, a platform product group. And we basically put people in charge of these things. So before, the people running each of these big products for us were kind of scattered across the organization. Some were in the engineering team, some were in the product team. Now there's a person who owns each one of those. And I basically said, OK, in 2 years, we want to be world class at each of these things. So build your roadmap to get us there. And naturally, what a lot of the folks did was the first thing that they did was they took a step back and say, OK, well, I don't have the framework or infrastructure in place now that I'm going to need to get there in 2 years. So there was a lot of kind of rebuilding and retooling, as you say. So on the mobile side, that was rebuilding the native infrastructure, right, that we built out. And and then we have similar projects going on in a bunch of other areas, rethinking different areas of what we're doing. And because of the cycle where we started all that around the beginning of this year, that's why the first half of the year was a little bit slow on products. But for the next 6 months or 9 months, I expect that a lot more interesting stuff is going to come, and I'm really excited about that. But we've on the mobile side for retooling specifically, we did go from having this mobile core team before, where we have this graph that we track inside the company of mobile check-ins, right, of commits of code, and it went from at the beginning of the year 90% of the mobile code being committed being from this mobile core team to now educating everyone across the company. So now 90% of the check-ins and commits are coming from all the different product groups decentralized, and only 10% of the product infrastructure is getting built by the mobile core team. But that's a much healthier balance, right? So we've transitioned, and now we are a mobile company, right? I mean, all the code that's being written is mobile.
Do you still code? I know even recently you still occasionally would.
So we have a rule at Facebook that if you check in code, you have to maintain your code. So,
not so much.
The answer is I code for fun on the side, but out of respect for other folks and not wanting to be a jerk and make other people maintain my code when something breaks in a meeting and I don't want to have to get pulled out of like a management team meeting or something to go fix something. I don't check in code to the main branch anymore.
Does Mark Zuckerberg's code break?
Yes. Everything I do breaks, but we fix it quickly.
So you've closed the Instagram acquisition.
Yeah,
can you talk about it now? Why did you do it, and what are you going to do with it?
Well, yeah. So Instagram is great, right? I mean, they're this super talented group of engineers. They're building this amazing product. They just crossed 100 million registered users. I mean, they're killing it. And the history of how this thing came together is really interesting, right? So the way that I got to know Kevin is they started off building on top of our platform, right? I mean, they had just a great open graph integration that made it so that you can take pictures with Instagram and you can share them to Facebook. and it's really first class, right? So sharing a picture from Instagram, it basically appears exactly the same as if you shared a photo on Facebook. So it's great. They did a really good job with that. And one of the things that I like to do is all of our big developers, I just like to reach out to them and get to know them personally, partially because I'm personally just really interested in entrepreneurship and helping other entrepreneurs, but also I just want to get to know the people who are doing great stuff on top of our platform. So I spent a lot of time with Kevin, and over the course of our discussions, we built this roadmap of all these things that we can do together. But then this tension started, which was, they were starting to get a lot of distribution from Facebook, and from them there was this question of, how much do they want to bet on just one company providing a huge amount of their distribution, right? So that became the strategic question for them. And on the flip side for us, there's this question of how much do we prioritize these things, right? So we had this list of cool things that we could do, but then there's this question of, okay, well, we can help them grow, but this might just be specific for them, but without the value accruing to us, we'll probably get to these things more slowly than ideally we would want to. So eventually I just brought up the idea to Kevin, hey, maybe we should just join and become one company, and we can do a lot of these things really quickly, and then we decided to do it. So that's basically the game plan, is we're going to execute on the features that we decided earlier. Our mission around Instagram is we think Instagram is amazing, and we want to help it grow to hundreds of millions of users. We want to help them out with whatever we can, but we have no agenda in terms of making them go onto our infrastructure or something. I mean, a lot of times companies force companies that they're integrating to do stuff like that. I think it's primarily a waste of time. We're not going to do any of that. We're going to just try to do the things that we would have done if they were an Open Graph partner, but now we can prioritize them more highly. And they can do a lot of them directly because they have access to our code directly. So,
I clearly missed time drinking in the water. Yeah.
No, I just stopped awkwardly because I wanted to
you did that on purpose. I'm not sure I'm allowed to ask this question, but I'm going to anyway. I have been bugging you about a Facebook phone for years. I mean, you've dragged me into the office to say it's not happening, Mike.
Do you believe me yet?
No, I believe that you haven't. Of course, I believe you, except that I don't, because I think that maybe there's like a secret group inside of Facebook that is building like hardware phones, and it's such a juicy story. I just hope that now you can come out and publicly say finally that we're definitely building a Facebook phone.
We're definitely building.
Yeah.
No, see, that's always been the wrong strategy for us. And I mean, it's such a juicy thing to be able to say, they're building this phone, right? And that's why I think people have wanted to write that, but it's so clearly the wrong strategy for us. We're building this network. We have 950 million users soon. It's growing quickly. Let's say we built a phone. Theoretically, we're not. Maybe we could get 10 million people to use it, 20 million. I mean, that it doesn't move the needle, right, for us. The strategy that we have that's different from every other major technology company, which is building their own hardware and operating system, right? I mean, Apple, Google, Samsung, Amazon, Microsoft, like everyone. I mean, we're going in the opposite direction. We want to build a system which is as deeply as possible integrated into every major device and things that people want to use, right? So then there are three major platforms for us. I mean, there's mobile web, which I said before is huge for us, and no one is more integrated than us on mobile web because there's kind of this limit as how far you can go. So we're good there. On iOS, the whole strategy was we want to build a great app. The last release that we did was the first step. It didn't really innovate on design that much. It just got us to a good fundamental framework. We're now in a good place where we can do a lot more interesting stuff. The iOS integration that Apple announced before and hopefully will be coming out soon is a big piece of that. I'm really excited about that. It's going to make it so that iOS developers can integrate with Facebook a lot better. Already we see 8 out of the top 10 iOS apps and something like half of the top 500 iOS apps and more than 100,000 mobile apps already are integrated with Facebook, but that's with the current stuff that we have, which I think is kind of clunky compared to what we're doing with iOS. So that provides a really good opportunity for us to go deep on iOS. Android, we can go deep on our own, right? Because there's a lot of hooks in Android that you can just use as a developer, and we think we can do really interesting stuff around. So that's the strategy.
There's no question that you spend a lot of time thinking about mobile these days. I mean, it's just clear that this is top of mind to you.
Yeah, I basically live on my mobile device. Actually, you want to hear something pretty funny? You know the founder's letter in the S1?
Yes.
I wrote that on my phone.
Really?
Yeah.
You didn't have did your lawyers do anything? Read it or?
No, I wrote that. Yeah, I mean, I do everything on my phone. I mean, as a lot of people do, and it's, and I still use our website, right? And but I think it's really clear that just the stats and my own personal intuition and experience just go towards you check in more with seeing what's going on with the people around you. You can share more. You have the device with you when you want to do things. A lot of the development, the energy in the ecosystem is not going towards building desktop stuff anymore. It's going towards building mobile stuff. We're able to integrate and we're helping a lot of folks build great mobile experiences. We just think that that's the future. We're going to be doing killer stuff there, and so is everyone else, so we want to help them do that.
Okay. And so you did say you're building a phone then, or no? What about search?
Everything except that.
What about search? Do you ever think about search? Google Plus must have kind of pissed you off a little bit, right? It's like, hey, watch what we can do back. That's the way I think of it.
Search is interesting. We do on the order of 1 billion queries a day already, and we're basically not even trying. Right, so today, search is, the vast majority of it is people trying to find people, but there are also a meaningful portion of queries which are people trying to find pages, brand pages, other business pages, and apps, right? So there's a bunch of it actually does kind of link to commercial behavior, and I think that there's a big opportunity there at some point, and we just need to go do that. But search is interesting. It's going in this interesting direction. The legacy around search is you get these search engines like Google and Bing and what Yahoo was doing before, that basically you type in keywords and the search engine tells you runs some magic to tell you what it thinks the answer is that matches your keyword. But I think that search engines are really evolving towards giving you a set of answers, right? It's not just like here, I'm going to type in something, show me some relevant stuff. It's, I have a specific question, answer this question for me. And when you think about it from that perspective, Facebook is pretty uniquely positioned to answer a lot of the questions that people have, right? So, what sushi restaurants have my friends gone to in New York in the past 6 months, and liked? Which of my friends or friends of friends work at a company that I'm interested in working at because I want to talk to them about what it's going to be like to work there. These are queries that that you could potentially do at Facebook if we built out this system that you just couldn't do anywhere else. And at some point, we'll do it.
Okay. Do you have a team working on it now?
We have a team working on search, but that stuff I think we'll have to see.
How many engineers do you have working on search?
I don't even know off the top of my head. We are doing on the order of 1 billion queries a day. So when I said
Amazing.
we weren't trying, I was being facetious. There is an ongoing effort to make sure that people can find friends and look people up efficiently. But no, we're doing a lot of stuff. I don't have anything specific to announce, but I do think that that's one kind of obvious thing that would be interesting for us to do in the future if we got to a state where we were excited about it.
What are other obvious things that you might want to do in the future? Facebook phone?
No, see, the phone just doesn't make any sense.
No, okay.
There's a lot of stuff around platform that I'm really excited about.
Well, let's talk about that for a second, since we're a little over time. But there's Zynga, right?
Yeah.
Not growing so much anymore. What else is going on there?
So platform is really these two things primarily. Canvas has been the legacy, right? So there's obviously this big games business, and Zynga's had a rough few quarters. I think that they're fundamentally a strong company, but they've lost some share on our platform, and other companies like Kixeye and King.com are gaining, right? So so it's not kind of all bad news, and we have more people playing games on Facebook platform now than we have in the past. We're up to 235 million people playing games monthly. So that's real, right? So that's kind of Canvas. But the thing that I'm actually spending most of my time on now is Open Graph, right? And when you think about the what Facebook platform should be, it shouldn't be about people building apps inside of our environment. There's a bit of that on desktop, and I think that that's cool, and it's providing value. But I think the real value is about people being able to bring their information and their friends to apps, being able to bring context from what they're doing in those apps back to Facebook, helping apps spread themselves, helping give people more social context and all the things that they're doing. And you're starting to see a lot of really interesting stuff. Spotify is killing it. They were a good early example. Airbnb, I think, is doing a lot of really interesting stuff. and they're growing quickly. You see examples of things in fitness. I mean, Nike Plus is doing interesting stuff. I mean, Runkeeper. Just a lot of interesting things that are going on, and that's one of the areas that I'm personally really excited about. All developers want more distribution. One of the recent things that we did that's on the margin between platform and ads. I mean, this is an example of this kind of new way of thinking where we're integrating our monetization products into the product teams. We launched this product recently, mobile app installs, not particularly creatively named, but clear. And what it basically allows you to do as a developer is you can list out the different market segments, right, just like any kind of targeting that you want, and you can say how much you're willing to pay for an install. And then you just embed the Facebook SDK into your app. We kind of figure out which apps that we should show. We have hundreds of millions of people who are using apps, so we can put your apps in front of. We give social context, so here are your friends who are using these apps. It has great ROI for the initial partners. I don't think we've done a full public launch yet, but we've done a bunch of private testing, and it's working really well. So that's something that I'm excited about that I think almost every mobile developer can kind of get behind and be interested in. And it's right on the intersection of the platform stuff that we're doing and a real good distribution tool that I think most developers are going to want to use.
All right, last question.
All right.
This is a hard one. Are you still having fun?
Yeah. I mean, for me, it's not really about fun, though. It's about mission. So, people ask, I mean, we go through these waves, right? And, there are times where everyone in the world thinks that what we're doing is awesome, and, usually they're too optimistic when they think that, and they're writing stuff like we're whatever. And then, there are times when people are super pessimistic, and, I personally, I mean, this is maybe a perverse thing personally, but I would rather be in this cycle where people underestimate us, because I just personally would rather be underestimated. I think it gives us good latitude to go out and take some big bets and do some things that really excite and amaze people. But
are people underestimating Facebook right now, do you think? Are you in that cycle?
I think a bunch of people are. It's hard for me to say overall. But over the long term, I think that there's a huge amount of interesting stuff that we're working on. There are all these long-term projects that I can't really get into right now, but that we are retooling to work on, and we're about halfway through that cycle. And I mean, that's the stuff that keeps me going. I just want to build good stuff. When we look back 10, 20 years from now, the legacy of this company should be that we've connected everyone in the world, and that everyone can share all the stuff that they want. And that's a lot, and that's a lot to get excited about, whether it's fun, exciting, whatever. I mean, some days are hard, some days kick ass, but I think everyone is amped for what we're doing.
All right, well, on behalf of all of us, thanks very much for your time, Mark. Thanks.